Every morning at exactly 7:15 a.m., I found myself standing on the cold platform of Union Station, clutching a lukewarm coffee in one hand and my worn leather briefcase in the other. Train 45 had become a part of my life, almost like muscle memory. The sound of screeching wheels, the conductor's whistle, and the shuffle of commuters, it was the same scene every day. Nothing about it ever changed, or at least that's what I thought, until I noticed her. The first time, it wasn't anything dramatic. She was just sitting 2 rows ahead, her dark hair tied into a loose bun, a paperback novel open in her hands. I don't know why I noticed her. Maybe it was the way she always tilted her head slightly when she read, or how she smiled faintly at certain lines as if she were sharing a private joke with the book. Something about her presence made the crowded, noisy train feel softer. Day after day she was there, always in the same seat, always with a book in her hands. I never had the courage to speak to her. I told myself she was just another commuter, someone I'd forget in a week. But weeks turned into months, and instead of fading into the background, she became the highlight of my mornings. Sometimes our eyes would meet, just for a second. She'd look up from her book, and I'd quickly look away, pretending to be fascinated by the advertisement about dental insurance taped to the wall. My heart would thump like I'd just run a marathon, and yet I never spoke a word. It became a silent ritual, her reading, me stealing glances, both of us pretending not to notice the other. Train 45 was just a train to everyone else, but for me it became something more. A place where my day started with a stranger who didn't even know my name, at least not yet. One rainy Thursday morning, something unexpected happened. I had rushed onto Train 45 a few seconds before the doors closed, drenched from head to toe because I'd forgotten my umbrella. As I walked down the aisle, trying not to drip water on anyone, my eyes instinctively searched for her. And there she was, sitting in her usual spot, but this time, she wasn't reading. Instead, she was sketching. A small black sketchbook rested on her lap, and with a pencil in hand, she was drawing intently. I couldn't see the details, but her brow was furrowed in concentration, her lips slightly parted, as though she was lost in another world. I was fascinated. This wasn't the quiet, bookish girl I thought I knew from a distance. This was someone with layers, someone who created instead of just consuming. When the train jerked suddenly, she dropped her pencil. Without thinking, I bent down, picked it up, and handed it to her. For the first time, our hands touched. It was the briefest brush of skin, but it felt like an electric current shot through me. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice carrying a warmth that settled somewhere deep in my chest. I managed to mumble, "You're welcome," before awkwardly moving to my usual seat 2 rows behind her. My heart was racing, not from running through the rain, but from those 2 simple words. The ride continued as always, except now I couldn't stop staring at the sketchbook. I wanted to know what she had been drawing, but I didn't have the courage to lean closer. When the train reached her stop, she stood up in a hurry. In her rush, she accidentally left the sketchbook behind, resting against the window. I froze. My mind was screaming at me to pick it up. And before I could stop myself, I did. The cover was soft, worn from use. I held it like it was something fragile, precious. Part of me knew I should run after her, return it immediately. But another part, the selfish, curious part, wanted to open it. I didn't know then that this decision would change everything. That evening, when I got home, the sketchbook was still in my bag. I told myself 100 times I shouldn't open it. It wasn't mine. It was personal, private, probably full of drawings she never meant for anyone else to see. But temptation was stronger than guilt. I sat on my couch, the rain still tapping against the windows, and flipped the cover open. The first page took my breath away. It wasn't random doodles or half-finished lines. It was faces, real faces, strangers on the train. An old man with a hat tilted low, a woman sipping coffee, a little girl with her backpack too big for her shoulders. Each drawing was alive, full of detail, full of soul. She wasn't just sketching. She was capturing people, moments, stories. And then a few pages in, I saw something that made my stomach drop. It was me. My face, drawn with careful strokes. My tie, slightly crooked the way it always was after rushing in the mornings. My eyes looking away as if I didn't know I was being watched. Page after page, different angles, different days. It was always me. I stared at the sketches for what felt like forever. Shock, disbelief, and something I couldn't quite name rushed through me all at once. She had noticed me. All this time, when I thought I was secretly stealing glances at her, she had been studying me too. Watching. Remembering. The realization left me dizzy. The next morning I carried the sketchbook onto train 45, my hands sweating against the cover. She was there, in her usual seat, but this time she looked restless, her eyes scanning the train as if searching for something. When her gaze fell on me, I saw recognition and panic. I knew I had to return it. But how? What would I say? "Hi, I accidentally stole your sketchbook and found out you've been drawing me for months." My throat tightened. The train doors closed, the engine roared, and all I could think about was the weight of the sketchbook in my hands and the even heavier weight of the truth it carried. My palms were clammy as I held the sketchbook, and every second felt heavier than the last. She sat only a few feet away, glancing around nervously. I could tell she was looking for it. For her sketchbook. For the piece of herself she had accidentally left behind. I knew this was the moment. I couldn't delay it anymore. Taking a deep breath, I stood and walked toward her seat. My legs felt like lead. When I finally stopped in front of her, she looked up, her eyes wide, almost startled. I held the sketchbook out. "You left this yesterday," I said, my voice softer than I intended. Relief washed over her face as she reached for it, her hands trembling just slightly. "Oh my God. Thank you. I thought I lost it forever." I gave a small smile, but inside my heart was thundering. I couldn't just walk away. Not now. "You're really talented," I added, surprising myself with the courage that slipped out. Her cheeks flushed pink. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. You opened it?" I froze. This was it, the part where honesty mattered. I could lie, say no, pretend I hadn't seen anything. But the truth hung between us like a thread, fragile but undeniable. "Yes," I admitted quietly. "I saw some of your drawings." Her eyes darted away, her fingers tightening around the sketchbook. "Then you know." I swallowed hard. "That you've been sketching me." Silence. The train clattered on the tracks, the world moving around us, but in that moment, it felt like just the two of us suspended in time. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to be creepy. She hesitated, searching for words. "You always looked so lost in thought, like you were carrying stories no one else could see. I couldn't help it." Her confession struck me like lightning. For months I thought I was invisible. Just another face in the crowd, and yet here she was, telling me she'd seen me more deeply than anyone had in years. Something inside me shifted. Train 45 would never feel the same again. For the first time in months, maybe years, I didn't feel like just another faceless commuter. Her words echoed in my head. "You looked like you were carrying stories no one else could see." No one had ever said anything like that to me. The rest of the ride passed in awkward silence. She clutched the sketchbook to her chest as though protecting a secret, and I sat a seat across, staring at the blurred scenery rushing past the window. Every few seconds, our eyes would meet, and we'd both look away quickly, smiling nervously like two teenagers caught passing notes in class. When the train screeched to a stop at her station, I expected her to leave without a word. But this time, she hesitated. She stood at the door, then turned back toward me. "Do you maybe want to grab a coffee?" she asked, her voice hesitant, almost afraid I'd say no. My heart skipped. I don't know why I was so shocked. Maybe because I had imagined talking to her 1,000 times, but never thought it would happen like this. "Yeah," I said, almost too quickly. "I'd like that." We ended up at a small cafe just across from the station. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets damp and glistening under the morning sun. She ordered tea, I ordered black coffee, and for a moment, it felt surreal, like stepping into a different version of my life. Her name was Lila. She told me she worked at a local art studio, teaching kids on weekends and sketching for herself during commutes. I found myself telling her things I hadn't shared with anyone in years, about my job in accounting, how routine had swallowed me whole, how Train 45 had become the only place where I felt something different. She listened, really listened, her chin resting lightly on her hand. And when she smiled, it wasn't polite or distracted. It was the kind of smile that made you feel like you mattered. As we left the cafe, she glanced at me shyly. Same time tomorrow? For once, I wasn't dreading tomorrow. The next morning, for the first time in years, I woke up before my alarm. There was an energy buzzing in me, something I hadn't felt in so long. I ironed my shirt twice, checked the mirror 3 times, and left early, because I couldn't risk missing train 45. But fate, as it turns out, had a cruel sense of humor. An accident on the freeway delayed my cab, and by the time I sprinted up the station steps, breathless and sweating, I watched the doors of train 45 slide shut right in front of me. Lila was inside. Our eyes met through the window for just a second, her expression shifting from surprise to disappointment as the train pulled away. I stood there on the platform, chest heaving, feeling like I had just lost something important before it even began. The entire day dragged. Numbers on spreadsheets blurred together. Voices in meetings sounded like static. All I could think about was whether she thought I'd bailed on her, whether she'd even show up tomorrow. The next morning I was there extra early. Train 45 pulled in, and my eyes immediately searched for her usual seat. Empty. My stomach twisted. Each stop passed. Passengers got on and off, but there was no sign of her. Had I ruined it already? By the 3rd day, I was almost ready to give up. I told myself maybe it was just a fleeting thing, a chance encounter destined to fade like smoke. And then, at the 4th stop, she walked in. Her hair was damp from the rain, her sketchbook tucked under her arm. She spotted me instantly, and for a tense moment, I didn't know if she'd ignore me. But then, her lips curved into the smallest smile. She slid into the seat across from me. "You missed yesterday," she said, teasing but soft. "I know," I admitted, relief flooding me. "But I swear, I was chasing that train like a maniac." Her laugh filled the space between us, light and unguarded. And just like that, the distance of the past 2 days vanished. After that morning, things changed. Slowly, naturally, as if they were always meant to, Lila and I began sitting together on train 45. At first, our conversations were light. Books she was reading, sketches she was working on, the ridiculous ads plastered inside the train. But soon they deepened. She told me about losing her mom when she was 15, how art became the way she held on to the pieces of herself she was afraid to lose. I told her about how lonely my apartment felt after my brother moved away, how routine had numbed me into feeling invisible. It was strange, how 2 people who had been strangers for months could suddenly feel like home to each other. One Friday evening, the train was nearly empty. The city outside glowed with lights, the windows fogged from the warmth inside. She was sketching again, and I leaned over to peek. This time it wasn't strangers' faces. It was mine, smiling, laughing, living in a way I hadn't in years. "You make me look happier than I am," I teased. She looked at me, her expression soft but certain. "No, I make you look the way you are when you're with me." Something in my chest unraveled at those words. Without thinking, I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away, her fingers curled into mine, warm and steady, as if they had been waiting for that moment all along. When the train slowed at her stop, she didn't move. She stayed beside me, her head resting lightly against my shoulder. And for the first time, I realized train 45 wasn't just a routine anymore. It was the place where my life had shifted, where a stranger had seen me more clearly than anyone ever had. Weeks later, we took the train together, not just as strangers, not even as friends, but as something more. And every time the doors closed and the engine roared to life, I knew that the ride ahead, with her beside me, was the one I never wanted to miss, because sometimes love doesn't shout. Sometimes it sits 2 rows ahead, reading quietly, waiting for you to notice. And when you finally do, your whole world changes.